All right, this lecture here is to help you do the assignment of what's under the hood of your computer. Now, it's very important that you understand the machine that you're driving to do your work, because if you don't have the right machine, you're not going to be able to get the job done. So I'm going to run through several steps that you need to know to figure out what's inside your computer. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check out the My Computer interface. So if you come down to the blue Windows 7 Start button, and we go ahead and click once on it with your left mouse button, this menu that pulls up will show you an option to select your computer. We're going to go ahead and select Computer. Now, very important that you know I am operating Windows 7. So if you were operating an earlier version of Windows, what you're going to see is not exactly what I'm going to show you. Now, why do you want to go to Windows 7? Highly recommended. It is the latest Windows software. If you're running Windows XP or some earlier version, one can only hope that your IT administrator will have the decency to upgrade you to the latest Windows software. Now, when you open up My Computer, right away you do see a couple of things. First off, you see a variety of file locations, network locations, hard drives, and things like that that you can access. If you'll notice, in the upper part of this window, you'll see hard disk drives. Now, when I look at this, right away this tells me that I have a 556 gigabyte drive, and I currently have 437 gigabytes available. I can also see that I have a DVD drive connected to my computer. Now, if I were to connect a portable hard drive, which I'm going to do right now, go ahead and plug one in. When I plug one of my hard drives in, a little menu should pop up, we hope. And you'll see that I've just attached a 931 gigabyte drive. I'm going to go ahead and close this pop-up dialog. I actually have a really cool drive. If you're looking for a hard drive, I highly recommend the LaCie ruggedized hard drives. This one is relatively full, about 1/3 full, but I still have 657 gigabytes free. Now, within the My Computer interface, if I select one of the disks, I'm going to go ahead and select my local disk C. If I right-click on this, a menu pops up and I can select Properties, which I'm going to go ahead and do. The window that appears, Local Disk Properties, shows me a little pie chart that indicates that I'm currently using 119 gigabytes of space, and I have about 3/4 of the drive available. If you look at your system drive and you have, let's say, for example, that I had 3/4 full, or worst case, maybe I had most of the drive full and I only had a little bit of free drive space, this is not good for the operating of your computer. So you're going to have to remove some files and basically clean up your hard drive. You never really want to run a computer without at least 25% free hard drive space. But for the assignment that you have, what's under my hood, this is where you will figure out what hard drive capacity that you have. I'm going to go ahead and click OK to close this menu. Now, if I had network connections, they would show up here. Under my network panel, you can see that I have basically no network connections available because I'm operating this from my home office. Now, if I was at work, I would be connected to my 7 terabyte storage area network, and this would actually appear. The next thing we want to do is we want to look at system properties. Within this dialog, if I come up and select the system properties, which I can do as soon as my computer freezes up, I would come up and select my computer so that I see my hard drives. And then there's a tab, the second tab over on the top that says System Properties. I'm going to go ahead and click on that tab. And it's going to tell me some basic information about my computer. You can see here I'm running Windows 7 Professional. I have Service Pack 1 installed. Now you may want to check to make sure that Service Pack 1 is the latest service pack for Windows 7. I would actually do that. I'm pretty sure it's the latest one that I have because I have the Microsoft automatic updates installed. So if there was a change, it should have automatically installed. The next area down shows what's called the rating. So I have a 6.6 Windows Experience Index. If I go ahead and click the little blue highlight Windows Experience Index, this will tell me how that ranking occurred. If we look at these scores for processor, memory, graphics, gaming graphics, and primary hard disk, you can see what's pulling my score down is actually the disk data transfer rate on my hard drive. I have a very fast processor, I have very good memory, but it's my hard drive disk data transfer rate that's giving me the lowest rating for my Windows experience. Pretty obvious that the higher your rating, the better and faster that your computer is. I'm going to go ahead and go back by clicking the back arrow on this dialog. I'm going to take a look at some other things. Now, the processor is showing that I have an Intel Xeon CPU, our central computer processing unit. It's a 2 gigahertz unit, and I actually have two processors. Now, what it doesn't tell you here is that I actually have basically two quad core processors. So in reality, I actually have a total of 8 processors. And I'm going to come back and show you how you can view each of the individual processors in a few moments. The next thing that's important to know is that I have installed memory of 4 gigabytes of memory. Now, when you do this on your own computer, if you do not have a lot of memory, you're going to have a slower computer. So let's say, for example, that you only have 1 gigabyte of memory. Well, that's hardly enough memory to operate ArcGIS. You might want to talk to your IT person, might want to try to figure out how you can increase the memory that you have available. What this dialog doesn't tell you is information about your video card. Your video card is very important to the functioning of ArcGIS. Now, within this dialog, you have an option. If you look in the left-hand side column, you can see that there is a device manager. If I click on the device manager, this will pull up some information about my computer. Now, this is a very detailed list of every single device that makes my computer function. We're not going to review all of these, but I'm going to go directly to the information that involves the video card. Now, your video card is also called a display adapter. So if I come up and look down, the third item on my list is my display adapter. You'll notice this little triangle next to it. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and I can tell that I have an NVIDIA Quadro FX 3700 video card. Now, this does not tell me how much video RAM I have. However, if I wanted to, I could probably open up a Internet Explorer, Mozilla, or Chrome, and I could type in NVIDIA Quadro FX 370, and I could get the specifications on this video card. There's another way and another tool that you can use that's very little known by most people. Perhaps even your IT people don't know about it. So if you learn this, you can ask them if they know about this, and if they don't, you can show them that something they don't know and put a smile on your face. Now, to access this other method, you have to use a command called run. So if I go down to my start button again, I go ahead and click start, then I select all programs, then I go ahead and I scroll down until I see the accessories folder. Go ahead and click on the accessories folder, and you're going to look for a command called run. So I'm going to go ahead and I see that. It's a little bit of the way down. I'm going to select run. This is going to open up the run dialog, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in a command. Now, this is the little known command that many people don't realize. The command is actually called DXDIAG, and it stands for the DirectX Diagnostic Tool. So I'm going to go ahead and type in DXDIAG, and I'm going to click OK. Now, notice that it does say this task will be created with administrative privileges, so it is possible that if you don't have full rights to your computer, that this tool would not work. And what you'd have to do to run this tool is that you might have to have one of your IT people come log in as administrator rights and then run this tool. I have administrative rights on all my computers, so I can't actually verify if that's true or not. But anyway, type in DXDIAG and then click OK. Now, this pops up and says, do you want to check if your drivers are digitally signed? Basically, this is a way of confirming if your drivers are correct or not. I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And I'm going to patiently wait, and voila, the DirectX Diagnostic Tool appears. Now, this is a wonderful little tool, and it tells me a lot about my computer. So the first tab I click is System, and if I look through it down to the system information, I can tell some things that, for example, I'm running Windows 7 Professional 64-bit. It actually tells me the revision and build number. It tells me who made the computer, in which case I have a Hewlett-Packard computer. It tells me the system model. This is an XW8600 workstation, perhaps the finest workstation that money could buy 3 years ago. It tells me that I have an Intel Xeon CPU and running at 2 gigahertz. But notice, unlike the Windows 7 system properties, this dialog actually tells me that I have 8 CPUs. So there's a little bit more information than we got before. It's telling me that I have 4,096 megabytes of RAM, and it also tells me what the page file allocation is. So in this case, it's telling me that my page file is about 2,100 megabytes, and I have 6,000 megabytes available. Now, the page file is a little bit tricky to explain, but sometimes it's useful that you increase the page file size. It tells me what my DirectX version is as well. Now, to learn about my video card, I'm going to want to go ahead and click the next tab. So the next tab says Display 1, which I'm going to select. And this has all the information about my video card. So my device, again, it's an NVIDIA Quadro FX37, which we learned by looking at the device driver control panel. This tells me a little bit more, though. It tells me how much memory my video card has. Now, the FX3700, which is a fine card made by NVIDIA, one of my favorite video card vendors, this has slightly over 2 gigabytes of video RAM. So this is an awesome video card for working with ArcGIS. Now, if money is no object, upgrading to the NVIDIA Quadro FX 6000 video card with a total of 4 gigabytes of video RAM is slightly better. However, you have to fork over about $4,000 for the card. Now, one of my philosophies as a GIS person is that you always should have a good sound card because rock and roll or classical music or whatever music you like to listen to makes digitizing for many, many long hours late in the evening a little bit more fun. So if you check Sound 1, you can look at information on your audio card. Now in this case, my computer at home, I actually have 3 separate sound devices. The one that you're hearing me speak on is a nice little unit. It's a ClearMic Duo. It runs this Phoenix MT202 PCS driver. So that's what I'm talking to you now on. I click Sound 2. I also have a Bose audio system. Again, I mentioned, excuse me, that listening to music while working late at night justifies the use of a Bose audio system. Sound 3 is another high definition audio device. This is basically hooked up to my internal computer. So, bottom line, the DirectX Diagnostic Tool is a very useful tool for learning what's under the hood of your computer. Now, the assignment that you have is to investigate your own computer and enter that information into the appropriate spot within geoworkshops.org. This is very helpful to us because if you have problems later on during the lesson, the staff at Washington College can basically determine some of the parameters of your computer and maybe make some advice on how you might need to upgrade. Thank you very much for listening to me, and you have a nice day.